One of the most persistent myths that I always hear in gardening is that you should never pull nutgrass because it's just going to make it spread. But that's just not true. Let's talk about why. Nutsedge, or some people call it nutgrass, is a pretty unique weed because not only does it grow above ground, but it also has a network of tubers and rhizomes underground that allow it to spread and store energy. Now, there is a kernel or a nut of truth to this myth because when you do pull up nutgrass, it can sometimes cause dormant buds or dormant rhizomes to then start spreading and coming up in other areas because it feels like it's under attack. But what you have to remember is that the tubers that are underground are a sort of energy storage for the plant. So every time you pull a piece or a part of nutgrass, it has to deplete its energy stores in order to regrow. But then how does it get the energy back into those rhizomes or into those tubers? Well, it does that by photosynthesizing. So the larger this gets and the longer that it's left exposed to the sun, the more photosynthesis is going to happen and the more energy is going to go back down to the roots. So it's true that if you go through and pull some nutsedge from an area, it is going to resprout. And then if you leave those plants for a prolonged period of time, it's going to cause more rhizomes and tubers to form underground, strengthening the plant. But if you can consistently pull this up, as soon as you see them appearing in your garden or in your flower bed, then eventually that plant is going to run out of its stored energy. And this is a control method called exhaustive control. So eventually you exhaust all the plant's resources until it is no longer able to regrow. And it actually works really well in small areas if you are consistent about it. So if you happen to get nutsedge in your raised bed gardens or in a small flower bed, then by all means, go ahead and pull this out, but make sure you are checking every few weeks and continue to pull it until you exhaust the plant's resources. It may take up to a year or more. Now, obviously, this method of control is not going to be good for a large lawn area or large flower beds. In those cases, you may want to do a chemical control, such as a product called Sedgehammer, which works pretty well against this stuff. So yeah, if you want to pull up your nutsedge, feel free to do so. Just make sure that you are consistent in doing that.